He's like, well, if my mom had balls, she would be my dad.
He's always like, WTF, mate? Saturdays are for competition again.
He was 40 points back.
Wakey, wakey, Lando. Wakey, wakey. Look at that gap.
Without Kimi Antonelli, Max wins the championship.
That's like something you'd see in the F1 movie. Is this the world champion hotline? Lando had to win his first against Max. Welcome in, Formula One fans, to the Tyred Boys podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got another Grand Prix race review for you here with the Chinese Grand Prix. A lot of good stuff with the sprint race. We had F1 Academy back for the first time this year. Justin, it's good to see you. I'm excited to get into all the chit chat around the paddock.
Yeah, good to see you as well. The Chinese Grand Prix was a decent one. I would say it was pretty fun. Hopefully, and this is for the listeners. Hopefully, our audio sounds a little bit better. We've been working out the kinks, working out the technical gremlins as well. In our own power units, as it were. Yeah. So hopefully everything sounds a little bit better for you guys going into this episode. We got a lot to talk about. Like Aaron said, got Formula One Academy returning. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun episode, Aaron. Let's get into it.
Yeah, we're the first team to bring upgrades this F1 season, I think, with
Ooh.
that. So we'll jump right into the quick hitters. We've got a couple this week. So even though we are off from Formula One this week with the Japanese Grand Prix coming up in 2 weekends, there is some racing this weekend if you want to check it out. We've got the IMSA 12 Hours of Sebring that's going to be happening on Saturday. And at the same time, we also will have the NLS Nordschleife series for GT racing and, well, a bunch of different racing series that's going to be going on Saturday as well. That's the first NLS race weekend of the year. So you may see Max Verstappen there. You may just see his team because there will be other opportunities he can go and race and qualify for the 24 hours of Nordschleife with the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix being, well, the FIA said they will not happen in April, was their official statement, which makes me wonder, and they haven't said anything, but they may potentially look to reschedule. I don't know if that's a possibility depending on how the calendar looks later in the season, but will not happen in April versus are canceled for the season are two different things in my mind. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that, but we'll have some pretty decent gaps in the schedule coming up here over the next couple of months with those races being at least canceled for April.
Yeah, obviously in the name of safety, don't want tourism going to the country in during a time like that. So yeah, probably reasonable if they're able to get them back on the calendar. I'm sure they will. My sense leans like that's not going to happen. I have a feeling that the conflict may not end like in
Resolve
time,
that quickly.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's just the saddest thing when
Yeah.
when the news broke of the conflict beginning, that that was a thought, is like, oh man, like does basically just like international competition of all kinds get halted, because like those are like the first kind of things that go when tensions arise. So unfortunate consequences of that. We lose a little bit of racing, but all good if it's in the spirit of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And just hoping that that does resolve quickly, whether we get racing back or not. But those are the quick hitters that I had for this week. So just some quick updates there. Over to the water cooler here. Just wanted to put out one of my favorite memes, which actually came from the Mercedes official TikTok account, uh, where Kimi Antonelli is going up to the podium to receive his trophy, and they announce Kimi Raikkonen, the Iceman, going up to win and take P1 in his first victory in Formula One. So that was pretty amusing seeing how Mercedes edited that bit, like the look of confusion on Kimmy's face when the wrong last name was said, and it's been a little bit since Kimi Räikkönen's been in Formula One, so the announcer definitely just had a bad moment there, but a pretty amusing snafu, I guess.
Yeah, that's tough because, like, yeah, like, easy mistake. I don't
But
think that guy
first
should.
race win,
Right,
yeah,
first race win, like, that is really, really tough. And like in his case, it's like, yo, my first name's Andrea. It's not Kimmy. Like, come on, dog.
yeah. But I feel like they fortunately, there were a number of other times where he had already been like congratulated the post race press conference. They're in the cool
Sure.
down room. There's all of the shaking of hands with Stefano Domenicali and everything. So um, yeah, they're fortunately getting the right name for most of the accolades, just not going up there to the podium.
Yeah, not bad, but yeah, man. First win in your Formula One career, second year on the job, not bad in a Mercedes,
Yeah.
in good company up there on the podium. I mean, like, that's not the worst thing to happen.
No, I mean second youngest F1 race winner, the youngest pole sitter in Formula One history. So really just impressive drive and weekend for Kimi, especially recovering from the kind of struggles that he went through a little bit in the sprint race with the 10-second penalty and all that we'll get into. Um, but yeah, any favorite memes that you had for the weekend?
Yeah, I've got one real quick. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm pretty sure I don't think he was the youngest driver to win. I think he's only second. I think
Second,
Seb
but youngest pole sitter.
second. Youngest
Max
pole
is the
sitter for
youngest race
sure.
winner, though.
For sure. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, just want to
I
make
might
sure
have,
I heard that properly. The one
yeah.
photo that I really really got a kick out of, like, after the race, was I saw this, like, it's basically made up to look like a racing, like, promo ad. It's like Oscar Piastri and all of his, like, McLaren gear and, like, images of the car and stuff, and it's Oscar Piastri, McLaren, 0% tire deg over 2 races. And it's like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. It's like, wait, that means he hasn't raced at all in two
Yeah.
in two full Grand Prix. So honestly, that made me laugh out loud funny. So I was like, damn, that's a funny way to put that. So I thought that was really funny. And then, like I said, I really enjoyed the Bono, Kimmy, Lewis podium when they were
Oh,
all up
yeah.
there, like, with the photo. That was just oddly just like the sweetest thing ever. I was like, oh
It
damn, that's so
was.
cool.
Yeah, it
So
was
I just like seeing that.
no, that was definitely a cool moment. Toto had they got a video of him being like, for a second, I thought we had three cars out there with
Hmm.
Kimmy, George, and Lewis top three, but I saw a similar one with Oscar Piastri that was like just two guys that have driven the same amount of laps this F1 season looking at each other, and it's a picture of him, so it's him looking at me and me looking at him, so
Damn.
no laps on the board for me or Oscar thus far. He got his sprint race laps, but no Grand Prix laps in. So definitely a lot to get into as we get around to the rest of the Formula One segment of the episode.
Oh,
Um,
by the way, check this out. In the post race uh press conference, they were asking Lewis, like, what the race means and all that, and he was giving his answer, and because, like, he was remembering, like, his first race win for
mm,
for Kimi Antonelli, and Kimi, like, interrupts, and he goes, yo, I was 1 year old when you won that race. And Lewis is like, yo, you were born in 2006. And Kimmy's just like giggling, and you can see it, like, hitting Lewis, of like, oh my god, like literally being like usurped by the younger generation. Just so funny.
it's
So that was
insane.
like a bit of a like time perspective thing.
Yeah, and I had a the realization for Lewis is fine. I had had a similar kind of moment when they're talking about the first year that the Chinese Grand Prix was held, which I think was 2004.
Hmm.
And I was like, I was cracking up just thinking about all the young guys on the grid that were not alive when that first happened. Like, there's a
Exactly.
bunch of them now, so definitely kind of a wild thing, especially for Lewis, knowing that his first race win was that long ago. Like that's pretty cool that he's still out here doing his thing and got back on the podium.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. But yeah, we have a lot to get into. I just wanted to talk about the, I guess Kimmy Lewis bromance, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But before we get over into the F1 Academy talk for this weekend, we just want to remind you if you're listening along, if you're following, watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends and family, anyone in your life who enjoys Formula One and would want to join in on the conversation. We would love to have you. So thank you for taking the time to spend with us.
Yeah, we're looking forward to covering the 2026 Formula One season. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. And back to the episode.
Yeah, so we will jump right into the F1 Academy season. And of course, this is the first race of the season. There's a lot of new names on the grid, but there were a number of drivers who had gotten wild card slots previously that are out there on the grid this year. Natalia Granada, who's driving for Prima Racing with the Sephora sponsorship that was announced. Um, just about a week ago, I think, before the race. She was one of the wild card entries. We had Wei Shi, who was the Chinese wild card entry last year, who was out there competing again this year, and a few other drivers who are going to be full time on the grid, kind of making that step up from the wild card entry, which I think is a really cool opportunity for those drivers to get that little taste of the experience before coming on in. But of course, we still had a lot of returning drivers on the grid as well that we're looking forward to seeing how they perform. Um, and so in the first race, we have the reverse grid. Nina Gateman, the Alpine sponsored car, was just in control the whole time. Goes from the reverse grid pole straight to the victory. A lot of good battling behind Natalia Granada, who I mentioned, comes in P2, and then Emma Felbermeyer ends up in P3 there in the first race.
Yeah, the first race didn't stand out to me as much. I have the sense, and it may have been like the slow nature of the like first sector of the track, but it felt like a bit of tepid driving and like some more cautious racing from
Mm-hmm.
some of the drivers, like specifically in the like 4 to 8, like 4 to 10 range, that kind of range. Didn't feel like they were getting after it too much. They were like minding each other, what felt like more than maybe like normal or you do or whatever. So that was something I really noticed in the first race. And then it kind of continued as well in the second race. I thought the front of the pack was way more aggressive, which makes sense. Like those would be the runners that got like actual, P1, 2, 3, 4 in qualifying. So like they're gonna be the quicker cars. But that was just something I noticed here in these like first couple races. A bit of like cautious driving. I'm curious what your sense was.
Yeah, I had a similar I saw the same thing, but I think I looked at it maybe just a little differently. From my side, I was actually just kind of impressed with the driving and the fact that there were so few incidents and contacts. I think the beginning of the F1 Academy season last year, I remember there being a bit more chaos, lots of drivers going into each other and everything. I think there may have been a little bit of weather changing that weekend last year as well, but I felt like this was kind of like the goal. Like everyone's out there. There was some good racing, but but yeah, minimal incidents, and for drivers who are young and learning, that definitely impressed me and stood out similarly. I think the cars do look a bit slower on, especially on a circuit like China that has such a long straightaway without any DRS. They're also like that Formula 4, Formula 3 kind of level of car, so they just don't have quite as much oomph to them, so that long stretch seems even longer with these cars.
Challenge presented to the cameramen for the Formula One Academy. These are the cameramen that are posted at like turns 1, 2, and 3. It's like do everything you can to make it look exciting. These cars being here, and like I don't know if mission accomplished in that regard because yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It's looking like pretty slow in the like the snail turns there. Um, I will say though, race two was very exciting, down to the wire, down to the final lap, down to the like the down to the line basically. I was looking at the timetable. I'm pretty sure each of those drivers was like point 0.5 seconds within each other. P1 to P2 itself was like point 0.2. She was
Yeah.
right on them. It was Alicia Palmowski and Emma Felbermeyer in just like in total battle that whole time. And then here's the driver that I'm gonna be keeping my eye on, and I'm sure you can guess why, is the Peyton Westcott United States national driving in the Mercedes sponsored car. So I thought she had like a really exciting weekend, especially race two. She did really well. And then just as kind of a maybe just like an added, who I'll pay attention to, the McLaren supported drivers. It was Ella Squared. It's like Ella Lloyd and Ella something else. But they're both on Team Rodden, both McLaren supported drivers. So I'm just gonna see how well they do, see how well Team Rodden does throughout the year. I'm basically just kind of just just picking early. I'm a McLaren fan. I'm an orange guy. I'm on the boat. So yeah, we're just gonna see how well they do with an eye to this Peyton Westcott because dude, I thought her Sunday was like great.
Yeah, she did. She did have a really nice drive there, picking up the podium. I felt so bad for Alba Larson, the Ferrari driver, who
Hmm.
she's coming and it's restarting under the safety car, and her car just has a wobble, goes wide there at the last turn into the gravel, and she drops down to P8 and just couldn't recover from there for the last few laps after leading the majority of the race. I think she actually took the lead on lap one ahead of Alicia Palmowski. But very good drive up until that point from her. So definitely another driver that's still on my radar. She was P2 in qualifying, so definitely has some strong pace, and hopefully she'll be able to just put that out of her mind for the next races that they have. But yeah, a lot of good drivers and driving to watch here in the F1 Academy this year. I'm looking forward to seeing the next few races that we have here, and how the standings start to shake out. The next race we'll have is a little ways away, and by a little I mean about 2 months. We'll be in Canada for the next F1 Academy race. But fortunately, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is the only one that has been called off thus far for F1 Academy, so we'll still have 5 more races in the series this year for them to duke it out with the, or 5 more race weekends with the 2 races per weekend. So looking forward to that, and seeing more of these drivers coming up through.
Yeah, because believe it or not, the F1 Academy has been a pretty fun supporting category to check out. I've enjoyed honestly a bunch of the drivers that you get to watch from that series. I was checking in after race two. I was all fired up about Peyton's race. I was like, oh, what's Dorian Pan doing? I was like, oh man, she's not racing till April. She's running European Le Mans, so she'll be
Mm.
doing like 4 hour like endurance races. They'll be at so Dorian Pan will be racing at like Catalunya. She'll be racing racing at Spa this year. So yeah, if I can, I'm gonna try and check out at least one of her races. Hopefully she's not the like the night stint.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
really
that would
tough.
be.
Night stint Belgium. Here we go. 2 a.m. I'm watching Le Mans. Come on.
Well, fortunately, with the European Le Mans series, they usually have like multiple stints. So even if she has a
Sure.
night stint, you might be able to catch her in a daytime stint as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what as just the racing season in general gets going to
Sure.
see some of these drivers back on the grid. So yeah, definitely a cool one for Dorian.
Can't wait to see Kyle Larson again, mentioning, just motorsports season in general. Oh man, can't wait to see him.
Let's see him do the double. Let's see if
Yeah,
he can do
dude.
it this year or if it's gonna rain and ruin his plans.
Yo, I've got the in info. I heard that he's not going for it this year. I think he's done like with the
this
gimmicks.
this is the if that's the case, this will be the first year that it's like pristine weather with no like nothing that would cause any sort of issue being able to do both, and he's not gonna try and do it.
Sure.
So it will it that's just how it'll pan out to be the perfect year for him to have tried and not go for it. But yeah, Kyle Larson back on the TV. NASCAR season is back, so if you're looking out for racing, I'm sure there's going to be some upcoming races here that can keep us going through the gaps in the F1 schedule. But we'll start moving over to the Formula One segment of the podcast here. And we'll get into that with the hot seat episode here for the Chinese Grand Prix.
All right, I bet you're gonna love this. I had the interns go into the basement, find our old show notes, and get me exactly what your record was from the 2025 hot seat. And we know we're trying to beat a 2 out of 5 record here. So all we need is just 3 correct answers, and we will have learned something about the Chinese Grand Prix for sure. Aaron, are you ready to get into the hot seat this week?
It's a lot of pressure, but yeah, I guess so.
All right, very cool. All right, so for everyone playing at home, we got 5 questions. The multiple choice answers will be provided, and we'll see how well Aaron knows the Chinese Grand Prix. So, here, question number 1: true or false? All Chinese Grand Prix have been held at the Shanghai International Circuit.
I'm going to say true.
That is true. Ding, ding, ding. You got one correct.
All
Now,
right.
question number 2. This circuit layout here was inspired by the Chinese character Shang, the first in the name of the city Shanghai. What does that character translate to? Is it A, race car? Is it B, above or and ascend? Or is it C, life or joy?
Ooh. I will go with B. Ascend or what was the other part of it?
So it's above or
Above
ascend,
or
I guess, are like
ascend.
the multiple,
Translations.
translations. You are
Gotcha.
correct. You are correct. That's what it means. So the like design of the circuit, it's basically supposed to reflect like an upside down T with like a little like F post at the top.
Oh, okay.
Which from a bird's eye view, I think they nailed it. So I think that's very cool. So very nice, Aaron. 2 correct here. Now, question number 3. This driver holds the all-time record at the Chinese Grand Prix for most wins. Now, think about the era that this track was in, right? A, Michael Schumacher, B, Lewis Hamilton, or C, Fernando Alonso.
I will go with B, Lewis Hamilton.
Nailed it. That's correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
see,
We
when you
surpassed
when you
last year.
knew when the first race was 2004, I'm like, all right, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. He knows. All right, question number 4. This circuit is owned by Mercedes in the record books, but how many wins does Red Bull have? Is it 1, 3, or 5? Red Bull as a constructor, not a power unit.
I will say 5.
Overshooting, sir. It
Ah,
is 3. It's Daniel
okay.
Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, and Sebastian Vettel. So incorrect.
I was
You
hoping
overshot
Seb
their
snagged
success. You were like, ah,
a
Max
couple.
probably won a bunch. Max
I
probably
was
won a
thinking
bunch.
more Seb because I knew
Sure.
Max. I knew Max only had like one, maybe two, and I was thinking era, just the era. The Red Bull was very good back in those early 2010s.
Sure. Yeah, dude, the Seb era is crazy. All right, here we go. Lando fact for you. How many podiums has Lando Norris achieved at the Chinese Grand Prix? Is it 1, 2, or 3?
I will go with 3.
Okay, okay, that's incorrect. It's 2, but
Dang.
I like the
All right.
confidence.
I thought that that was going to be a nice show offy moment there for Lando. But yeah, okay, so 3 for 5. So I improved from last year and left myself some room to grow for the Chinese Grand Prix of the future.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I'm really gonna have to cook up some questions because like yeah, all the easy ones are gone, so you know
Ooh,
it just gets harder from here. But yeah, that was a fun hot seat for the Chinese Grand Prix. Hope you guys learned something. Aaron definitely has. Let's you know let's get into the winners and losers.
sounds good. I'll go ahead and kick off with my first winner for this week, and that is Ollie Behrman. Just a very strong week and continuing his strong start to the season there in the Haas. He goes for P8 to get a point in the sprint, and then P5 in the Grand Prix after the DNSs and DNFs ahead of him. But really strong pace throughout the race. I was very impressed. His qualifying's looked good, but his race paces looked really good, and he's been able to notch himself P5 currently in the driver's standings with um, just the Mercedes and Ferraris ahead of him at the moment. So a very very nice start to the year and kind of the biggest surprise of the year so far for me.
Yeah, it seems like they have a pretty good understanding of their car package, like as far as the drivers go. It feels like from like a development engineering side, it seems like the Ferrari power unit is doing really well for them, or at least they have a good baseline understanding, and then you know like the development cycles
Mm.
will start coming in, and you know teams will start making upgrades as well. But it seems like currently the Ferrari Haas package is pretty decent. Behrman doing really well, even compared to his teammate Ocon, who you know if you were to compare the two drivers, Ocon the more veteran driver of the two. So Behrman looking really good in that regard. You know making few mistakes and yeah getting points like some really good points on the weekend for Haas. So that's great to see. I think that's a great winner shout. I'm going to bring the obvious one here, but you know I am quite excited about it. I think it's pretty fun. I'm bringing the boy from Bologna, you know, AK Antonelli. This kid, he's a bit of a firecracker. I think he does not have I will not say he's like consistent. I'm not going to say he's like, oh man, he's best out right now. I don't think that's the case. However, this was a really solid weekend. Sprint struggled in the start, was able to bounce back, took that because I'm pretty sure it only finishes like P5 in the sprint
Mm.
or something, is able to take a pole position that he earns, converts it to a win. I mean, that was one of my main and the main criticisms of Lando. It's a big criticism of Charles Leclerc. When they get their pole positions, they struggle to convert. Well, here's a young driver, similar position, is able to convert what is like traditionally a more difficult thing to do for the younger drivers. So I love seeing that. That's why I'm giving it to Antonelli. And also his qualifying performance, he actually didn't just like get it for free. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, I think George Russell may have had a bullet in his kneecap, but he did do a run.
He did, and I was super impressed by Kimmy. A big congrats to him for the first pole, 100% pole to win ratio with his first win of his
Strong.
career. So yeah, untouchable there with the sample size of one, but very
These
impressive.
guys' stats are crazy.
Yeah, but super impressive for him. And like you said, like a young driver, he's had some inconsistencies, but even the sprint race, he dropped out of the front from P2 to maybe like P7, P8 on the start. He doesn't do the same thing and make that same mistake there in the Grand Prix. Gets a good start, is out front leading, and just is able to take it. So a very solid drive from him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he competes, especially with George up there at the front for the rest of the season.
I hope it is a classic Mercedes inter-team battle. I'm just getting visions of Valtteri v Lewis, and it's just like, yeah, I think that would just be okay.
Yeah, and not as I don't think it'll be any Nico v Lewis fireworks, but I think they're a little bit nicer to each other over in Mercedes now.
Yeah, maybe a bit more gentlemanly. You know, it could be a bit till we see like hats start getting thrown at each other and whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, hey, a classic Mercedes driver v driver wouldn't be a bad thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely not. And talking about the next big team that is up there in the standings, my second winner of the week is Lewis Hamilton. He gets his first Ferrari podium in a Grand Prix, which is just exciting to see him back up there. It's especially exciting to see how well the Ferraris are racing with the Mercedes. I think if they can get a good opportunity to take a pole position if they can get their car there, or take advantage of maybe a Mercedes falter or reliability issue. They definitely have almost enough stuff to get a win right now, and very impressive weekend from Lewis, and drive to get that podium. Some great battles between Lewis and Charles all weekend long. The Ferraris have been fun to watch, and I was very excited for Lewis to be back up there on the podium, and get to take that in, especially with Kimmy and George and Bono, like you had mentioned earlier with that picture. Very cool moment to have them all up there together. You couldn't have picked a better P3 to go with those two.
Sure, and even George Russell was saying, like, you know, if we had to share a podium with anybody, we'd all likely pick each other. Like, you know, this is a pretty good podium for them as well. So yeah, love to see that from Hamilton, and it just means that he is still um I don't even want to say like at the top of his game. I think we need more data about that, but he is at the top of the game right now. I don't think the Ferrari package has enough to consistently contest the Mercedes, especially in the straight lines. I mean,
Yeah.
that overspeed from the Mercedes, like when they're overtaking, you know, down into turn 1, down into turn 14, like that 1.2 kilometer straight going down into turn 14 was just nuts for the Mercedes. Like they didn't even have to wait for the braking zone. They're just moving so freely. So I feel like the Ferrari development cycle still has a little bit to go before they're like covering up their weaknesses enough where they can, you know, bring the fight to Mercedes. But interestingly enough, like the Mercedes aren't all powerful, right? There are areas of the track where, you know, it's a bit of a give and take. And I think that's what's pretty cool about these cars is like they're really tough to drive. You clearly have like strengths and weaknesses. There's like, you know, pros and cons to whatever your setup is going to be, and it seems like pretty clear pros and cons right there, like large shifts on the continuum. So I think that's interesting, and Hamilton seems to be on top of that. And seems to be enjoying the driving from my eyes. So yeah, great to see from Hamilton, and I like that shout because yeah, we waited a full year to see him on the podium, and obviously we're not the only ones because everybody talks about it as though the sprint win in China does not matter. So it's like, yeah, it never mattered anyway, you know.
Yeah.
For like a results confidence, like this means something type deal.
Right.
Yeah, it's a points paying session. It'll matter in that regard, but like it does not have the same, it does not have the same aura as like a Sunday win does, and that's for sure. So yeah, great shout for Hamilton. Not everybody, not everybody was having great weekends, and brother, it did not feel good to be wearing orange this weekend. Dude, I sit down with my like Lando Norris jammies on and I'm like, hell yeah, bro. And they're telling me, okay, it's a pit lane start. I'm like, not bad. Like, we'll deal with it. Like, we'll deal with it. Like, it's fine. And then Piastri's like taking off his helmet, having a sip of his drink, and like eating an applesauce. It's like, wait, are they not racing? So yeah, that wasn't fun. But it was cool because then it's just like all eyes on Kimi Antonelli. So McLaren, one of my big losers for the weekend. That's a tough way. That's a tough way for it to go down. They're looking like a Cadillac right now. So yeah, man.
Well, and what's even worse is that Cadillac has driven more race laps than they have this year. Both
No.
Cadillacs finished the race a lap down, albeit this weekend, but they both finished. And
I
yeah,
can't handle the truth.
I
I just
mean,
can't handle the truth.
but having four cars not start on the weekend, it's just going to be something that we're going to see a bit more early on in the season, and then of course periodically throughout the year. The reliability and the new components and engines and everything, there's going to just be some weeks where that is not gonna work out, and it's just a brutal way for the McLarens to both not start the race, especially after the P5 P6 qualifying right there just behind the Mercedes and the Ferraris, set up to pick up some good points. So I think that's the more unfortunate part. If it were me, I'd almost rather they like crashed in qualifying and couldn't rebuild the car in time, uh, than for them to qualify pretty well and then just not be able to get the car out on the grid. So definitely tough, but that's kind of my silver lining with McLaren is that they did have a really nice qualifying, kind of that best outside of the Mercedes and Ferraris. They're getting themselves kind of back to where they would like to be, and so that's that silver lining there for the McLaren team.
Yeah, and obviously, like they've got the Mercedes power under them. We know the power unit's good. They just have to they just have to marry the other engineering elements like around that and uh unlock some performance. So yeah, I think I. It doesn't feel like this is going to be the picture of McLaren the whole time. This was just like I think this is just going to be one of their worst days of the year. And like we were talking about with Max, hopefully they just get it out of the way like soon and early, and then everything else is fine. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious who's another kind of loser for the weekend. Whose weekend didn't go so hot.
So for me, in my Red Bull jammies, I'm bringing them into the mix here. Just a very tough weekend. Max in both the sprint race and the Grand Prix, just does not get the start procedure right, and it's brutal until they have the graphic on the. It was awful this weekend for me until they put the graphic up on the side of the where everyone is. They're like showing just the front three, four cars. I'm like, oh, where's Max? Can I see him behind this car or that car? Where is he? Oh, there's a Red Bull way at the back. Oh, that's probably Hajar. Nope, not Hajar. I can't do the Yuki slash any other of Max's teammates so far this season. Just struggling and dropping back. It's Max who's having those struggles, but there's clearly some car issues. Both of them have talked about the difficulty with driving the car, especially this weekend. Haas is up above Red Bull in the constructors' standings at the moment. Max ends up DNFing the race by the end of it, and then neither of them get any points in the sprint race. So a big goose egg on the weekend for Red Bull. But one of the, I guess, silver linings, and it was something that I saw just a little while ago today, but there's a couple of cars that are significantly like heavier than some of the other cars. The Williams is reported to be 28 kilograms overweight, and in comparison to the McLaren, the Ferrari, and at least the Alpine, Red Bull is about 20 kilograms heavier than all three of those cars. So that really is kind of that significant difference, at least where Alpine is close to Red Bull. Whether or not Red Bull will be all the way up there with Ferrari and Mercedes when they get that weight down is of course yet to be seen. But I think especially at a circuit like China where these new cars don't have the same downforce and sticking to the ground. Some of those turns, like the final corner coming into the straight and all, the cars are. We saw a number of cars sliding around, going wide into the gravel. We saw Bortoleto do that in qualifying, and having a heavier car is definitely not making those areas of the circuit any easier. Um, so at least some hope that if they get the weight of the car down, they'll be in a better spot.
Yeah, and my understanding, listening to some of the engineering conversations, is that that's something that has happened pretty regular at the start of development cycles where cars will like begin overweight, and it like as their
Mm,
development cycle goes, they tend towards that low end, or whatever, like below regulation, or whatever it is. So I think that's something that will come down naturally, but with it being part of the conversation now, it seems like some teams are struggling with it like more than others, like you're saying, like a Williams and the others. So yeah, it sounds like relatively normal, but yeah, we'll just look to see how quickly they're able to cut that weight and get down
right.
to, like lean racing trim, you could say.
Yeah, and I think that's just going to be the key is like how quickly they can bring that development. I think there's definitely now more opportunity, less race weekends that will probably see a significant amount of upgrades coming in the first races back after this longer break that we'll have. So definitely some opportunities to improve. I imagine with the um, like you said, the development, the parts that they have, they're probably looking at them in the wind tunnel and oh, let's build them. And then once you build them, you can and like know they work properly, then you can decrease the amount of material you're using and just figure out where it's sturdy enough to do what you need it to, but decrease the weight. And so I'm sure there's a lot of those little odds and ends that they'll get worked out, but they're definitely behind the eight ball at the moment.
Hmm.
So I think deservingly of the second loser for me this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I can I could definitely agree with that. Yeah, I don't think any of that was, offsides, as it were. So yeah, just some of the storylines that I think were, pretty important here for the weekend, and things that we'll be kind of tracking over the next race weekends as well. Yeah, I'm curious if you're ready to get kind of into the sessions, kind of go stop by stop throughout the weekend, because we did have a bunch of sessions, a bunch of like points paying sessions as well. So I'm excited to get into it. The one note that I want to make about practice, especially for a sprint weekend, and we could see this like reflected in the times. Couple of the elements that we could see at work during the practice session were the McLarens were like 1 second off the pace, and you could see everybody's basically just doing qualifying runs, because the next session is the sprint qualifying, which
Mm,
is a shortened regular qualifying session, right? So instead of like 15, 12, 10, it's like 12, 10, 8. So in Q3, you really only have time for, like a warm up, push, cool lap, or whatever it is. So that session actually pretty important for the sprint. So, and this is what I'm getting to with practice, and then we can move on. Teams running quali sims as opposed to like race simulations. So they're not bolting on the hard tires and doing 20 laps of that and seeing how it behaves with 50 kilograms of fuel on board. Their qualifying simulations. The McLarens were down in the 134s, so that tells you that they're trying to get around the track as fast as they can. They're not like data gathering, right? They're basically trying to find the fastest way around and work out the problems like all at the same time, right? So these practice sessions for the sprint weekends tend to be really crazy in that regard. Like everybody is just pushing. Um, and now here's one of the elements that I wanted to bring up because it informs the race later. So Alpine was suffering big time early in the weekend. Colapinto's having technical issues. Gasly was having some issues during the running as well. But look where they finished on the Sunday. They actually were able to like ramp up over the weekend. They earned
mm.
some points on the Sunday. So yeah, just a couple of interesting things from the practice, but I mostly wanted to talk about like the goal for teams in these sessions because they look very different than your normal flow of the sessions.
Yeah, and of course, with that, like the qualifying time comparison shrinks down and all the gaps in between the drivers. But in this in the practice sessions, we're seeing some much more significant differences. So whether that's
Right.
fuel loads or just like Arvid Lindblad being at the back because it's the first time he's raced here and he's just still probably figuring out the circuit along with where to deploy energy throughout the lap and everything. So definitely a tougher practice session to really get that data. And like you said, you don't know um, because there's so few laps that they're running, like what the tire degradation in life is going to be like. We saw some drivers starting out on the soft tires in the Grand Prix. We saw people on the mediums, the hards. So without that data, it doesn't make that first decision quite as easy when they're picking out tires and figuring that all out.
Sure. I'm pretty sure Max was the only one who started on softs, right? Everybody
Yeah,
else was basically
I
like a
think
medium
so.
or hard runner and then swapped
Yeah.
onto the hards. Yeah, Max was just trying to make up those slots, dude. He was
Oh,
going
100%.
racing. But
Yeah.
yeah, then the spring quali session was like pretty brutal unless you're a Mercedes fan. They were like 6 tenths ahead of everybody, even the McLarens and the Ferraris who were, definitely behind them, P3 to P6 positions, but like time wise, like a good bit behind. So I think that was like the biggest part of spring quali. It like followed very similar to what you would see in the main race qualifying session.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that the Mercedes was so far ahead at that point in the weekend. Kind of what we've come to expect. But yeah, the gap was significant.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I wanted to highlight with the sprint qualifying was that and whether it was track temperature, time of day, whatever, they ended up throwing down faster laps than they did in the Grand Prix qualifying. Whether that was maybe some setup changes that adapted the car to be a little bit more focused for that race pace or whatnot, that could be the case since they got the sprint race data to know what a longer stint kind of looks like there. But yeah, the Mercedes especially just throwing down some really solid times right out of the gate for qualifying. They had their car dialed in pretty well. And the one other little note was that Sergio Perez did not go out and put a lap in for the qualifying or the sprint qualifying. So he started P22, and then Valtteri, Lance, Fernando Alonso, Albon, and Sainz were the other five that were out there in the first round of qualifying. Colapinto, Lindblad, Bortoleto, Liam Lawson, and Ocon and Hulkenberg were the next set dropped out there. And then, of course, our starting three for the sprint race, our top three: George Russell on top with the sprint pole, Kimi Antonelli P2, and Lando P3. So even in that sprint qualifying, like I said, the McLarens had showed that they had some pretty good pace there. So
Hmm.
it would have been interesting to see how they shook out in the race. But a at least initially decent start for them with the qualifying.
Yeah, so it's like they have the pace under them, but it's like reliability issues or like technical problems that are keeping them from the track. So yeah, hopefully they'll just be able to get that nailed down. And then what'd you think of the sprint race here on Saturday?
I mean, I thought it was pretty exciting. Kimi dropping back and like getting to see the start again was pretty interesting. I was a little bit disappointed, I guess, by and this was just a it was a little bit of my fandom and a little bit of boredom, but these cars with the new battery power and everything, when there's a safety car, they take so long to get them off the circuit. With the safety car that happened in the sprint race, and then similarly in the Grand Prix, like it took like 3 laps for them to 3 full laps under safety car to get the car off the grid. Um, and that is it's just brutal because the sprint race is already only like 19 laps, and then on
Sure.
top of that you're losing 3 to 4 of those to a safety car right towards the end. And I'm hoping that Max pitting onto the soft tires is going to give him that opportunity to try and climb his way back up through, but too few laps, unfortunately, to make it back into the points after pitting. When a number of drivers who didn't pit end up staying up there in the points.
And my understanding of that is the electric charge that is in the vehicle when it goes into like that. Well, that's actually not what I mean to say. My understanding is it's an electric charge due to the different power system that seems to be preventing them from like accessing the car for like some amount of time.
Yeah, I think it's uh, not to get super into the weeds and nerdy, but the batteries like are sort of capacitors to an extent where they're holding that battery power and storing it for them to use throughout the lap. So I guess there's a period of time that it takes for that to release the energy on its own before they can start grabbing the car without risking an electric shock and everything. So hopefully, with them doing this push for the stronger battery power and everything, they'll have to maybe adapt the way that they do that for these cars, or maybe there's a better way for them to start getting them moved without having to wait as long. I don't know what the answer necessarily is. Add a little switch that just drains the battery or something that just like lets it go. I don't know. But yeah, that was a little bit frustrating, especially in the sprint race. But outside of that, we did see a lot of good battles on the track. The Ferraris were really getting after it again in the sprint race as well, and duking, going back and forth. But I'm still not 100% sold on the new regulations. I like that there are more overtaking opportunities and everything. I like the idea of having the overspeed or the overcharge for the battery deployment for a full lap. I think that does make it interesting and helps those passes stick, and then allows the driver behind to have an opportunity the next lap to battle back. There are some definitely solid things about that back and forth, but there's still a lot of hiccups with the energy deployment. We saw the Ferraris in the practice sessions were losing a huge amount of speed on the straightaway just because of how long it was. They were their clipping was dropping them nearly 100 miles an hour by the end of the straight without going off the gas. So I think that makes it a little tougher. There's more battles on track, but I'm still finding that sweet spot for how I feel about these cars.
So, one of my favorite games has a conversation about the boards that the game is played on. Is it basically like offense favored or defense favored? This feels like a shift of that of that scale, where previously racing was significantly advantaged in Formula 1 anyway to the defending driver, the driver that's ahead. You're creating this wake of dirty air behind you. You have the freedom of like clear air ahead of you. You're not battling anybody. The only downside you had were these like DRS zones. You just had to like position yourself or your lap in a way where you were 1.1 ahead of them, ahead of the DRS zone, or you play the defensive game. You make yourself wide. You become the minister of defense, like whatever you want to say. But I think the onus was always on the overtaking car to figure out how they're going to get by. For a while in Formula One, there was a full meta of like not even racing to overtake. Everything was about just overtaking in the pits, just overtake on pit strategy, right? Like nobody
Yeah,
even cared about racing each other. They're so efficiency brained that they're like, no, we actually lose out too much on our race if we race. So it's like it's not we don't want to race as best we can. And that's like literally like the mentality of the teams. So it feels like, having said all of that, it has shifted from like you have way more weapons on the attack to get by, which then creates that like Peloton style of like overtake. And to me, I think that's really fun because it feels like a full shift in the paradigm of like who they want to be advantaged in that like wheel to wheel racing scenario. Cars are racing deeper into the race, where like post pit stop, post safety car, these cars are still going toe to toe, like they're just battling the whole time. So
yeah,
there is something about their capacity to race closer together that I think is creating these like longer sustained duels between drivers, and to me that's really really fun. Like i
yeah.
i enjoy it.
I definitely agree with a lot of your side of it. I think and I think my biggest issue is the like racing full speed. I think that if these cars could go flat out for the full straight and everything, if all of them can do it, and you still have the additional boost for the chasing car for the full lap and everything, you still end up with this same quality of racing that we're seeing. Like I don't think that um if they had more V6 engine power across the lap and straights and everything, that it would change the ability for them to race, because they would still get that boost that's available to them all through the entire lap. They have the active arrow. They're decreasing the dirty air. I think all of those different components that you mentioned are good and are working pretty well right now, and they'll need some fine tuning, of course, but the smaller cars additionally I think helps a lot with this back and forth battling. So definitely, like I said, a lot of excitement and some good points. I just would like the cars to just be able to go flat out the entire lap versus um, having as much just battery power, um, either causing shifts or because it seems like once they figure out where is optimal to deploy it on the lap, which takes about 3 or 4 laps at the start of the race, then that amount of overtaking dies down some. There's kind of the chaos initially, there's some chaos out of the pits, but then it seems to kind of settle in, which obviously it's going to as as drivers start protecting their tires and
Like that
looking at all
just
those other
happens.
things.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a way to still do this without the cars like feeling slow in some instances. Like it's Formula One. I want the cars to go fast. But that's just
I believe we will get that.
I
And
hope so.
like maybe even this year yet.
Yeah.
I'm not even like pessimistic about like, oh, that's like maybe like next year or whatever. No, I think they get it dialed in. I think they are able to improve. So like what does that like factor under like their deployment or like power usage or whatever?
Yeah.
I bet the teams are able to clean all that up where they have more like reliable power more often at more places throughout the lap. Like that's basically what you're asking for, right? Like you feel like their like power spikes throughout the lap are like really varied and you just want like a more
Yeah.
consistent
A little bit. Like
power.
yeah, like
I
so
That's fair.
if
I think that just naturally happens.
yeah, I hope that it does. It's tough to say with this like 50-50 push for 50% electric and 50% V6, like when you have those circuits with really long straights, it makes it tough to have power the entire way down and everything and to be able to go flat out just because the batteries can only be so big and so heavy and all those
Sure.
things. But again, with like development of the cars, the cars will get lighter, they're gonna go quicker, they're gonna use less energy to move that car because it's lighter. And so there's a lot of yeah, a lot of different components to it, but just for me, the jury's still out. I like the excitement when it's going on and the yo-yo racing as they have kind of deemed it early on the season. Like I think it's fun and watching the Ferraris be able to battle, watching them go back and forth with the Mercedes at the front. It was some really exciting racing, but there's just still some fine tuning to do. So that's why I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm gonna hold my opinion officially until I see a bit more racing, and then I'll figure out how I fully feel on these cars.
Well, what's interesting is like I I feel like you're not really gonna know until the end of the development cycle, like when you can like see it, like when you can see the whole thing. If it just feels like we have very little information to know, like, okay, was that like a good set of regulations to
Oh,
go
of
racing
course,
under?
but
You know what I'm saying?
I still think that if we once they are like this is what the regulations are in terms of battery deployment, energy harvesting, once they feel settled on that, I think that will be where we can start to form a more definitive opinion of like is this working or not. And initially yes, but there's also just such drastic variations in car performance and everything right now, it is hard to know and to have any sort of like data based answer after 2.5 races this season. So at the very least, it's made for some very exciting racing and some good battles on track. So I've definitely enjoyed that thus far.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. There's something pretty interesting right now about the, Ferrari and Mercedes where like they are stronger at different points of the track. The drivers have different strengths. Like it's crazy to see the Mercedes get like bogged down, kind of overtaken, really beaten on the starts, but then they're able to like claw back over the laps, where the Ferraris are able to like really defend and kind of battle in the corners, but once they get out onto open circuit, then again the Mercedes have the strength. So I think there's like man, it right now it just feels like a really nice like rock paper scissors with the Mercedes like being a little bit quicker, but I think to my eye like they don't seem insurmountable. They don't seem like
Hmm.
impossibly far away like a Red Bull has looked in the past, where it's
Right.
just like first day out, you're just like, okay, so we've got 22 more of these. Like, great. This feels at least for now like there'll be a little bit of back and forth, at least right
Yeah,
now.
and there should be. I mean, it's again new regulations, and some the Mercedes figured it out the best initially, and Ferrari's pretty close. But yeah, I think as development comes across the year, like the teams will and the orders will shift around. But I am looking forward to a lot more racing and continuing to talk about that, we briefly talked about the Grand Prix qualifying earlier with Kimi Antonelli's pole position, but this was another session that saw some different reliability things. We saw George's car have issues, do the old turn it off and turn it back on a couple times
It's
to
called
get him
power
out.
cycling.
Exactly. And he power cycled his way back onto the grid. And I was just super impressed with his lap that he put down in Q3. He gets one shot at it, one shot qualifying, and goes out and puts it P2 when it was uncertain for a little bit if he was going to put down a lap at all. So really impressive from George to just be able to go out and hammer that lap down, especially just being 2/10 off of Kimmy's pole position time. So I was impressed, and I have been impressed thus far with the Mercedes team with how they've been able to work out any issues getting Kimmy's car rebuilt and back out on the track for qualifying last week and all. There's been a lot of solid team performances from them along with the driving.
Yeah, and good for Kimmy too that George Russell was able to get back out there because the George Russell apologists would never let AK Antonelli live it down. They'd be like, "Yo, he wasn't even challenged. Like, yo, he walked onto that pole for free." It's like, thank God he got to put a lap on because now nobody can try and take it away from the kid. But yeah, definitely. Um, in a disadvantaged position, you could say, having to do it in one lap where the other drivers got multiple. But yeah, fun qualifying session. I thought it was neat to see Behrman up in the top 10, like we were talking about, strong in practice. So seeing him making it through all the way through qualifying was great. And then you just have the snafu or like late in Q2, unfortunately, where Bortoleto spins, ruins some laps. A couple people were able to like make it out. He wasn't out there like terribly long, but you just hate to see like people's laps getting disrupted for like not for anything basically. But yeah, Other than that, solid qualifying. The McLarens were right up in the fight. Unfortunately, they did not get to start on Sunday. But yeah, fun session. Made me definitely look forward to the race with the Antonelli on pole. You know, you're wondering, can he convert?
Yeah, and the answer was yes. He went on and just drove really really well. He definitely um, got a nice advantage from the Ferraris and George kind of battling behind him. So being able to just like go out in clean air and race and everything definitely helped him. But even with that, the rookie or not rookie, the young driver out in the lead, running ahead to win his first race, still ends up giving a little bit of a jump scare to himself and everyone else when he went wide at the hairpin late in the race. But fortunately, is able to keep it going and only lost a couple seconds there to go on and win the race here.
Well, he had to make it just a bit relatable for all the young fans out there. You know, do just 35 clean laps in a row and then for no reason just like wobble it down into turn one. You know, just making it as relatable as possible. You know, not everybody is perfect. But yeah, aside from that moment, like that was a clean victory.
Oh yeah, he drove so well. I'm super impressed with the composure of leading that race throughout, especially with guys like George, Charles, and Lewis right behind him there. He just checked out and gave himself a nice lead there and just was able to keep it going. So very, very strong drive and to bounce back from the difficulties in the sprint race and all to come back and take pole and win. Yeah, just a huge shout out to Kimmy.
Yeah, big win, just big weekend overall, you know. One thing that I thought was really cool about this race that we don't get to see all the time was the safety car that brought everybody in. Multiple teams double stacking in the pit lane, which was really cool. You just got to see just a flurry of action, multiple teams pulling off. Like that is like one of the hardest things that the pit lane ever has to do on a race weekend. Bunch of teams really nailed it. Like nobody lost out hardcore. So I loved seeing that moment of the race where the one of the other aspects of the team, one of the other big important aspects of the team, get to shine and kind of show off what they're made of, getting their boys out quickly. You know, you can see the cars just kind of like slow rolling behind, waiting for their time to be up, and then they all do it again. So I thought that moment was really cool in the race. I love seeing the pit lane shenanigans because it really is like it is just a beautiful display of athleticism that is just done in the blink of an eye basically. So I thought that moment like I said was really cool in the race. And then yeah, just the difference between and we'll say it a bunch, it really is just the difference between the Mercedes and the Ferraris off the line. You can see where they're strong, where they're weak, and Lewis and Charles are really trying to make the most of their starts, like
Mm-hmm.
really understand like where their strengths are. So I was really focused in on the start of this race and really loved what Charles and Lewis were able to do.
Yeah, they and the Ferraris looked so good out of the gate from the start of races. They have that part dialed in, like you said, and they're looking to take advantage of that. The fact that they have pretty much every opportunity been able to pick up places right off the start and move up to be able to battle with the Mercedes at the front has made it really contentious and exciting for the starts of these races, especially with four between the Mercedes and Ferraris, four really strong drivers. You're able to see some good racing. So there's no or so far has not been any major contact or anything like that. Um, but of course with the pit stops and race and everything as well, That was kind of the start of the end for Max and a couple other drivers pitting on lap 9 right before the safety car comes out on lap 10. Losing 10 seconds immediately after your pit stop is a brutal way for that to go, but that is just the nature of the game right now with these reliability things for the cars.
I will be honest. I will be honest. I cackled like a witch at her cauldron when I saw him get safety card. I was laughing so hard, brother. Like it is just like one of the worst luck things that could happen. Like if you're the
Yeah.
driver on the team, like it's just bad, but it can happen to anybody. And on a weekend where like things weren't going great, bro, I hate to say it, but that made my heart happy.
No, I get it. And for me, I was like when they told Max to like box to retire the car, I'm like, is this because he wasn't gonna be in the points? Like he gets hammered with the safety car and then also just had a an overall like it seemed like the car was just not working super well, whether there were other technical issues and things or not. The He was not comfortable. He talked about the car's balance and everything being pretty off, including he said changing a ton of the setup from the sprint to the Grand Prix and it making little to no difference in the drivability of the car. Um, yeah, just a tough way for that to go. And then similarly, like I said, Liam Lawson and Carlos Sainz get the bad luck there as well. Liam Lawson was able to turn that around though and ends up finishing P7. So a big shout out to him being the lead Red Bull on the weekend.
Which is a wild thing to hear someone say out loud, and just a little bit of color for Max's issue there for the DNF. He was quoted as saying after the race that they were experiencing an ERS cooling problem, so their
Mm,
energy reserve system, I guess, was overheating or not doing its job properly. So
gotcha.
my understanding is that's what the DNF for Max was for. And yeah, that causing like you had said, Liam Lawson to be the best performing Red Bull team driver on the weekend. And it's like, damn, that's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's not a huge knock to Hajar. He was having some struggles with the car, I think, throughout the weekend as well. But finishing behind the guy that you got promoted over is definitely a little bit of a hit to the ego, probably. But again, still very early in the season. There's going to be a little bit of chaos here before things settle into knowing where these cars really are in their performance.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm looking over my race notes. I'm seeing we didn't talk about the Bortoleto did not start as well, so a couple drivers, a couple teams suffering from that as well. His counterpart though, Nico Hulkenberg, was able to finish close to the points, which kind of bodes well for the future of their campaign. Audi looking like a totally different team than the one that we left, in Kick Sauber in 2025. So very encouraged for that. The Hawken podium may, be a repeat event, and this weekend, puts them kind of close to that. The Haas cars as well were looking really good with the Ferrari power under them. We already stated Behrman getting up there in the points. Ocon would have been able to bring home some bacon as well, except he wanted to dive bomb Colapinto. He saw zero room on the inside, and he thought, well, hell, I'm going for it. And so he, crashed into him, spun them both out, and lost a whole heap of points. Like he was literally running in the points at that time when he did that. Ended up finishing P14 for old Ocon. So maybe one of the drivers is a little more focused than the other. So I'll be definitely looking forward to Behrman's season this year. He's started off well.
Yeah, and then my final note was just with the Alpine cars. Like you said, Cole Pinto gets hit, but he still ends up finishing and picking up a point, which was pretty awesome for him,
Sure.
especially after the struggles last year that Alpine had just as a team in general. Um, so I know Ocon after the race had apologized and was even said he was really happy that Cole Pinto ended up getting back into the points because he felt awful about almost ruining his race or somewhat ruining it. Um, but the other just big Alpine news or highlight is Gasly. He picks up P7 for a couple points in the sprint and then gets another P7 in the Grand Prix. So he's been able to stack up some solid points here to start the year and help that Alpine team make their way up here in the standings. And at this point, any points that you can snag are good this early in the season. So you have to just maximize, and he was able to do that here.
Bro, where in a season where everybody's gonna have like multiple DNF technical issues, I don't get this session, you don't get that session. Like literally everybody is going to have those problems. So
Yep.
any points that you can scrape up on your like when you're running, I mean it's going to pay dividends at the end of the year,
Oh yeah.
especially like we're talking about for like the midfield teams, the ones where could be is it the is it the Haas? Is it the Audis? Like those, I think those points are going to be really important, especially for a team like Audi if they're able to finish ahead of some of these legacy teams. If they're able to get some points, well, they've all of a sudden increased their chances at success for the next year as well. So yeah, just all things that we'll be able to keep an eye on. I'm curious, did you notice the Carlos Sainz P17 to P9 drive?
Honestly, I didn't really pick up much of that because I don't think they showed very much of it on the
No,
broadcast. It was
no, of course
so
not. And I didn't see it until, I was looking in the standings. I was like, wait, I thought he was back of the grid. He finished up in the points. Like, bro,
yeah, that's pretty
he
wild.
just incrementally every time with everybody's like bad luck, they're stalling. He just stayed out. So shout out to Signs. He's in a tough car. He's in a tough team right now. I think he's staying as positive as he can. And if we can see these performances, like we'll still know that Signs is like he's out there, he's doing his best. They're just kind of building something right now. But I thought that was a really solid result that I wanted to shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. So big shout out to him there with the drive, getting up into the points and picking up a couple there for Williams, who are gonna need as many points as they can until they can get their car the weight down and get it in a better spot. So yeah, on a weekend with what was it, seven did not starts or did not finishes total. That's a great opportunity to pick up some points there.
And I've got a hot take point made for you. Alpine, third best Mercedes power on the day.
It's pretty good.
Wild to think, brother.
Yeah, that's definitely solid there for them. So yeah, picking up some great points for the Alpine. But I don't think I have too many other notes here on the race weekend.
That's about all I have as well. Yeah, we just, made some notes about the Racing Bulls team having basically a comparable weekend to the main team. We had mentioned that a little bit, but yeah, other than that, just commenting on the double retirement from Aston Martin. They're still struggling. Both them and Cadillac, only team without points currently. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Who's the true back marker?
The
Who's
bottom of
who's
the barrel.
the bottom of the back markers, dude?
Hopefully it shifts and changes because there's just a big midfield battle where everyone's in the mix. That's what
Hmm.
I'm hoping for. But yeah, it was a fun Chinese Grand Prix weekend. Again, to highlight Kimi Antonelli and his first Formula One win, that's awesome. And then of course Lewis's first podium with Ferrari, another box to check off on his list. Now just looking for that first Ferrari race win for Lewis, but yeah, very fun weekend and looking forward to going racing in Japan in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Suzuka, one of the all-time great circuits in my opinion. Usually a really fun race. I'll give you this one. It's a circuit where I think it's like Bro, I think it's like 13 championships have been decided at Suzuka. It's a pretty nutty number if I'm remembering correctly. Classically held at the end of the season usually, so it becomes this like final battleground for the closest of the championships. So pretty fun circuit, featuring one of the iconic corners of our sport is the 130R, which is in the, I guess, like sector 2, sector 3 area of the circuit. Just an insanely high speed sector, full commitment left hander. So, yeah, just really excited to get to Japan. And for longtime listeners, they'll know often a circuit where we see some of the better liveries, some of the better like custom like jumpsuits, helmets. Usually people go all out for the Japanese Grand Prix. A lot of history there, so I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, the hats that they have for the podium I saw look really cool. They have cherry blossom petals all. It looks like it's
Hell
very cool
yeah.
looking. But yeah, looking forward to that coming up in a couple of weeks, and of course, keep an eye out for any F1 content that we're putting out with our race review and all around then. But to wrap out this week's episode, we'll go ahead over to the cool down lap here, which we have the flavor of the week for this week.
I'll start off. I'll try and keep it short. I'll start with my visual medium here for the week because it kind of factors into some of the other things. So I couldn't just choose one movie. So I'll say it like this: the 2025. So the Oscar ceremony for the 2025 year of film was last night, a night to celebrate the year in cinema. You got to see some of your favorite actors and directors take the stage and receive credit for their achievements in filmmaking this year. So that was just like a really fun ceremony. It was like a good show. Some of the jokes were genuinely funny. It was hosted by Conan O'Brien. They had a couple of like musical performances. One was like there's a set piece moment in the movie Sinners that's accompanied by a song. The song's called I Lied to You. So they did a performance of that song. And then the K pop Demon Hunters song Golden, they did a performance of, which was like both were wonderful. And then I was rewarded at the end of the show. I stayed the whole time to get to, because they save like the best for last. It's like best actor, best director, best picture, like tend to be the last ones. My boy Paul Thomas Anderson won Best Director for his film One Battle After Another, and then the film Battle After Another won Best Picture for the year, which is just crazy. This guy's so good. One of my favorite filmmakers that I've learned about in the past year. So really enjoyed that. And then my music for the week was K-pop Demon Hunters. I watched that film kind of ahead of the Oscars. It was up for like best song, best animation, and so I wanted to check that out. And lo and behold, I'm just a K-pop fan now. I just had those songs on repeat. I'm singing Golden like I'm like a 14-year-old girl. I'm just jamming. So K-pop Demon Hunters was like genuinely awesome, and the songs from the film were genuinely awesome. Like they are just like it is just good music.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's really fun. So songs from that film, and then my food here for the week. I'll bring you in this way. Like, there's not much like to say about it. It's just a good sandwich. Have you ever had a Vietnamese banh mi?
I don't know if I have. It sounds very. I know I've heard of that sandwich before. I've had Vietnamese food. But I could not say if I have
Sure.
before.
The banh mi is just like it's like their version of like a takeout sandwich. It's just like a saucy chicken. They throw like cilantro, carrot, jalapeno,
Ooh,
and like a relish and like an aioli on it.
okay.
It's just like a takeout hoagie, just like some of their street food. I take it. A banh mi place opened up near me, so I stopped in, tried out their sandwich. It was pretty good. I will definitely be back. But yeah, just wanted to toss to you. That's my flavor of the week.
Nice, very cool. So that is some banh mi for banh you. But
Ooh, nailed it.
yeah. So with that, on that note, my I'll start off with my music for the week. We had some really nice weather on Saturday, so I've got some outdoor projects with landscaping and all that I want to get done here early in the spring so that things look nice. I'm redoing our the border of our garden currently to replace these hideous plastic brick borders that the previous owners had that are they break and they crack and they just don't look good. So I weighed down my Toyota Corolla with 18 of these big heavy uh, stones from Home Depot and just really took my time while the back bumper was dragging along the ground on my way home. So got to do that, and I was just jamming out to some country music, some nice weather, getting outside doing some yard work just makes me feel like I'm out on a farm, I guess, and ready to jam to some country music. So I was enjoying that some this weekend, and then my food and visual medium kind of tie together. Um, my buddy came over with his dog while Colleen was out for dinner with friends. His girlfriend was out with her people as well, and so we had a little boys movie night and picked the movie, or he picked the movie Nothing to Lose, which is from 1997. I was like, what do you want to watch? He said, let's do a comedy. I was like, okay, just do you have any all time favorite comedies that you would rewatch? I'll tell you if I've seen any of these, and then we can pick one. And so he threw three out there, and this was the one that I had not seen. So a pretty amusing film where the main character, Tim Robbins, um, gets carjacked by Martin Lawrence and decides to take him on a joyride, locks the doors, and starts speeding off. And a lot of chaos ensues. So pretty funny movie. It actually did age pretty well for something from the late '90s. A number of movies that I've seen from that era in recent years have not aged quite as well. So that one did a decent job. And with that, we got some takeout to have with the movie, along with some yak chews, which were not for us, but to keep the dogs occupied so we could actually sit and watch the full movie. So that was a pretty solid. And we got takeout. I got sushi, and then he got some other takeout from a local Japanese spot. But that is my flavor of the week for this week.
Hell yeah. See, with the older films, with the films you haven't seen in a while, you really have to apply the like Batman and Robin principle where it's like eh, you have to see it again before you pass judgment on it. You have to say things like, "Well, I remember enjoying it, but." You say like, "Well, in my memory it was," but as you'll find with like a Batman Forever, it does not age as well as it's in your brain.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes the older movies, have that feeling. I'll tell you this about Tim Robbins. He was the star of one of the first movies that I ever watched with like a critical, like with a student eye, where like I was told to watch it to like learn something.
Hmm.
So also Tim Robbins is like the one of the main actors in the Shawshank Redemption, legendary film. However, one of the first movies that I saw Tim Robbins in is called The Player. And now The Player is part of cinema history for its opening scene. So Tim Robbins, very near and dear to my heart. For like he's basically like at the start of my like critical movie enjoyment. He's like he's right at the very like he's right at the first steps, right? And
Right.
then the Shawshank Redemption is like one of my dad's favorite films. So there's a little bit of a double connection in that regard. So I'm glad that you enjoyed a Tim Robbins film because he's one of the goats of the '90s.
Yeah, apparently, and I didn't even realize. So now
Hmm.
there's some more that I'll have to go back and check out with his films. But I thought he did a pretty nice job in Nothing to Lose there with Martin
Very
Lawrence, and
cool.
Martin Lawrence is hilarious. So it was a good one. But yeah, wrapping out the cool down lap here with the flavor of the week. That brings us to the end of this week's episode. As always, and like we said earlier in the episode, we really appreciate everyone joining us. We want to grow our Formula One community here, to talk about F1 and movies and different other things in the Discord. So check out the link tree. You'll find all of our links to the videos, podcast episodes, and the Discord there. We'd love to have you. But thank you so much for spending some time with us.
The Tired Boys podcast releases a new podcast episode after every Formula One race. The next Formula One race is Japan. So that means after the Japan Grand Prix, there will be a Tired Boys podcast episode. I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoy the Japanese Grand Prix. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.